Okay. Good morning, all. Good day. Can't hear me. Awesome. Okay. Morning, Darren. Roger. You can hear me? Okay. Phew. I was watching a little bar move, like it was doing okay. Yeah. Yes, he was about to send me on a side quest. That would have definitely derailed me to start with. Well, then now you need to stream on a Monday. Oh no, you can't do that because maybe streams. I know. Yeah. I don't know. Just is the way. I'm still lurking though. I'm still there. You can't watch a stream at the same time. It's very difficult, especially for me. I was actually enjoying Stoney's music today, and so I was a bit sad to turn that off. But yeah, she, this is why I don't stream. Why? Because other people stream. Did I actually copy the meeting? Copies the scripts on the migrator. So if I do stream from 10 to 3 your time, I'll tune in. Probably your boss now. For me, Mojo is more than welcome to stream 10 or 3. I mean, you'll have to work 3 while 8, but yeah, yeah, can't be doing that. So I just asked Claude, I was like, how do I run the script? Because I used to have it with the MCP connected, but I don't have the MCP connected. I'm not messing around with that anymore. And I'm okay running the migration scripts. So it's like, Claude, how to run the migration? It's like, oh, you start the thing and you feed all the scripts in there. I was like, well, what do I not use the migrator? It's like, oh, yeah, there's a migrator. Tell the budget to get live today too. Morning, Phil. How you doing? Uh, so if we do, this might break everything right a second. That could break my entire database. Let's find out. Okay, applied. We've got a whole code comedy idea, but it requires streaming work code. God has been a pain in the booty today, sent me on 30 minutes circle home for no reason. Oh man. So we should have active on is active. Okay, we have added is active on there. That's on the view side. We should have is active here. Yes. Yeah. That's fine. We didn't wipe out any data, so that's good. So what I'm doing right this second is I decided to just move ahead. After many hours spent trying to figure out if there was a good design here that wouldn't, because right now all the changes I've got to make to the user, I didn't get any weekend coding time, so this is a continuation from last week. Um, the many hours spent going back and forth have really just identified that tenant management probably isn't the best name for this module. Organization management and tenant management being separate is okay. Identity is not identity. Identity is authority. Um, if I move stuff into that, I'll break that. So what I've been doing is I've been working on getting the tenant membership done. So right now I'm just building these tests as I start to build out this code. So the idea here is I will call an endpoint, and that endpoint will allow me to membership set active status. So I'd be able to update the active status on membership. I think that should be a post op. So these tests should fail, which is the idea. Which is fine. Concerning membership status. When membership is active and membership is set to inactive, membership is activated, membership set to active, no action is taken. So test naming aside, the idea is there. So now we need to repository of tenants. This is the one thing I'm a little bit concerned over is I'm using the tenant to change the membership. So I'm not, but the tenant is the thing that controls the membership. So that's why I'm okay with this right this second. I'm not getting stuck on too long. Bar tenant equals await repository dot single first W file. New tenant by identifier spec. Man dot identifier argument. We expect to, yeah. These are, it's not quite the right thing, but it's guard code that I'm willing to use for right the second and do a better pass later to be more informant. But basically, if that hits there, then the system's broken. But I need to put the guard there because you can't do first and have it throw an exception there. So, so we need to do tenant activate user. Now here's the challenge: we need the user. I'm going to end up with multiple repositories. I can't avoid multiple repositories. User equals await. The source user identifier is fine. But yeah. And then like that, but it's fine. Okay, so now we can do tenant dot activate user dot ID. I think we want to put source user identifier now. because we're going to publish an event to say the user they were activated, because we're going to have to publish the event to say they were activated so that we can trigger the integration event for the tenant users or tenant membership. And that. Oh, I'm still debating whether I want to do um, activate and deactivate or status and pass up a boolean. They could do that, but then it becomes an action rather than data. So, but this becomes and yes, I could call that tenants. I'm just trying to work. I'm just trying to avoid the word user repository, but it's realistically it just represents the collection of users. So, but normally I have a single repository with the data shape here makes no sense. So we wouldn't get an internal ID for the user we're trying to set the active status on. We'd only get the GUID. We'd only have the tenant GUID, so we have to get the tenant. The user. And I've debated on toggle, but then it requires if your front end set to false and you toggle it to true, but the back end already was true, you'll toggle it to false. So there's a chance of inconsistency there. So I want to be very clear. Here's what I'm sending it to. So the very worst that happens is, hey, we say it's false on the client, but on the back end it's true. Then we just say we toggle it to true on the client. We won't touch anything. Challenge with that would be it would never update. It would never synchronize that way. But yeah. Um, set. Cool. I'm activating disable user. I'm debating. I call that deactivate. So I've got naming convention. I've got naming challenges there. Enroll and unenroll users is easier. That's literally adding the user into the tenant and removing them from the tenant entirely. Activation is not the same as unenrollment or enrollment. Because you could work with a consultant or something and want to give them a time period, but then you want to deactivate them. You don't necessarily want to enroll them because you still want them to be accessible, but you don't want them to just be randomly able to access your system. Activate. So that's the reason there. Okay, so I'm going to. What I'm debating is whether I need two methods on the tenant to do this. Um, the benefit of having a single method is it's clearer what you're doing. Deactivate. Disable user sounds so much better. Um, I'm calling down into the membership anyway. The membership is the actual one that gets to update, which is a little bit broken. I don't think this will actually. We're about to learn something about the code I've written so far. Whether this will function the way I think it should do. So activate. That should add a domain event. And we'll talk about the actual event in a second. Tenant ID, user ID. That'd be fine. I want it to be explicitly controlled. I don't want it to just, again, I don't want it to toggle because of the eventually consistent nature of the system. I feel that toggle would be dangerous right now. So I think being able to say, I expect it to be false or I expect it to be true is a much easier thing to handle, especially from a debugging perspective later. So shit was public record tenant shit. My geek, hello. Activated in tenant ID. How you doing? I know they're the same shape, but that's fine. Okay. Well, we don't need the was there. Um, just started driving on my way home to work from home this afternoon. Well, on my way home to work from home this afternoon. Okay, sorry. My brain wasn't braining that. Um, with the user, I did it that way. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna rename the class. It took me a second. I got there. And this should be oh rename type. Uh, I forgot to check the box, so that should be tenant membership because I want to put all the domain events in there. Uh, this should be activated. And this should be disabled. I'm taking Fable to my product review skill to make it better. Okay. That added a whole lot of unnecessary result that activate. This is a static method, so this has to call this anyway. Crap. No. When we create a new tenant membership, is active is going to be true by default. Because I'm moving to entity framework core. When I started the project, I was looking at how to protect fields so that I didn't expose them, but would still work with entity framework. And it was advised to do it this way, but apparently this will work. And I think I might just need to do a setting on the context tell it to use private fields, which I will then go back and remove all these unnecessary underscores. The idea is that you shouldn't be able to, if you pull a tenant membership out, you shouldn't be able to modify that property by just loading out a tenant membership. You have to, it's controlled by the methods. Yeah, so that would be the same thing, right? Also install plain English plugin for Claude so that it's not so wordy. Fair enough. So the reason I just did that is because I would have had two domain events that would have both triggered, and I wouldn't have been, and I'd have had to debounce them. So there is a method I do have available to me that basically says suppressed by. So I can actually say this event is suppressed by this event. So if I did do the activate in there, I could tell it if you see a tenant membership activated, registered, and an activated, I could just do suppressed by hypo tenant membership was registered. So that would stop it from firing the event, like handling both events. It would just not send this event because it would know that this is contained. So again, I'm back here. That's to tell it who did it. Still debating. Do I do? I think I do the logic in here because otherwise I end up with this. So if we do set active user and we do command dot active, then we have then the decision is based inside of there. So if there's anything else that needs to happen or anything else, then this isn't handling that behavior. Set active. Set membership status. Yeah, I'm thinking we're going to go with that. And then um, command active is um, and then we just do this. Status activate sausage identifier else. Sorry. So now that behavior is handled there and it's contained. So even if we were to call it from something else, we'd have the same consistency. Sorry. My throat is hurting today, so I apologize. These are deliberate actions. This is fine. I will put events on them eventually. Actually, that's not used. That is used. Let's not leave code lying around that just is for later, just in case, eh? That was more of a thought exercise than it was an actual need. So now our test, this will fail because none of the data is right, but it should fail because it should throw an exception. So now if I set up the user, argument null exception, like, yeah, so it's throwing the argument null exception, so that's fine. So now we need to do, this is why I don't like this style of test, well, like this way of doing the test. I prefer to have the data set up, but I'm doing two scenarios based on similar route. But it means that I end up with these big arrange active certs, and that's got to be tidied up afterwards. So repository dot first default async dot is it arg any tenant by identifier spec arg any returns I can't find a way of testing these specs specifically. That's something that I'm gonna have to one day consider, because really it's very general. It says, hey, if I called this, and the only way of knowing if I've called it like 3 times is to count the number of times I've called it, which is, yeah, or use the method for number of executions. But yeah, this is going to return a tenant. So this is going to return builder, object builder, build entity, tenant, new, and this needs. If you are new to the stream, by the way, if you're hanging out for the first time, you're more than welcome to ask any questions. You're more than welcome to criticize the code if you want to. If you can actually give me something to learn, and I'm open to learning. But yeah, you're more welcome to engage, not just coding for the sake of it. So this is the object builder it allows me to create objects that I've made private constructors, so I can't instantiate a new object. Name, verified, active. I'll probably rename these to is active. Active is pretty self-explanatory. So ID, so at least the base entity values. So I'm going to use the same tenants in both. So it's private. Oh no, I've got tenant many there. And user ID. I've got tenant identifier. So you can do ID equals tenant ID. Identifier equals. That should actually be all that's required, I think, right? And users dot what's the default async for any user by identifier spec. Returns user new ID equals user ID. Don't think I need much on that. Identifier. Target user identifier. And that's that. Hi, buddy. Come on, go lay down. No, go lay down. These should still fail, but they should fail later. Object builder expected one constructor receive. Okay, so that's because they didn't give it the bare minimum of for the user. Just go switch to a completely different IDE. Okay, that's fine. So the bare minimum is name and email for the constructor. So I've got to give it that, even though I don't use it. Just checking. Okay. Okay. So string user name equals test user. We don't want to string email equals test. So that's the bare minimum of the user. So name equals name. And bare minimum is name, identifier, date, name and identifier. So name. So name equals uh, quiet today. So that gives us that. That gives us a tenant name. Name. I think it got myself out an hour before this noise. I was trying to go look at the product review script. No worries. Cool. Oh, good. You get spoiled by having chatty streams. That's the problem. Okay, so here we go. So a membership is set to inactive, membership is activated. So in this case, the membership. That's interesting. How did that work? How did it pass? Oh, because I didn't. It was the one that no action is taken. No. It's membership is set to inactive, membership is activated. That can't possibly be. Oh, received an update where the memberships are all that, right? So that one, this one can't pass because it received. What are you doing? Why do you keep switching? Right, that's fine. Okay. So there is no memberships. That are no memberships. Not there is no memberships. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do memberships equals new tenant membership. And I don't think yeah, that's an object builder. So I need a user ID and tenant. So object builder dot build entity tenant membership new tenant ID. Now these are tenant ID and user ID, not identifiers, because these tables are all contained within this database. So it's okay to have the primary keys referencing each other in this database. When it's published, they'll all get new primary keys anyway. So most tables will still have IDs to reference other tables. And then we'll have is active equals false. So we need a membership for that tenant attached. Minutes, hello. And what we're testing is, it was already true, so we won't get an update. And then we'll take that and copy it down here. And this is where I start to really lose myself in tests, because the code is just, yeah. This is false, and I should see true this time. Let's see if it all works as intended. For some reason, it put the run menu over on the other screen. Oh, expecting to receive a call matching. Expected conflict. Got okay. Sorry, I realized that the phone right next to the right next to the microphone. Okay, so that is because I am expecting conflict on this one, and I did not receive. So I want to see that. And this won't do that now because of the way I built it. So update membership status. If its status is that, then activate. So we set the active, we do it and mark it's activated. So this should trigger an event every time. I probably don't want that. But where do I suppress it? Because right now that doesn't tell me. So it's a non-harmful update. If it's already active and you mark it as active, it shouldn't do anything, and it's a wasted write. So it's wasted access to the database. So what I could do is and m dot is active equal not equal to status, so we get the opposite one. So if we don't find membership, we just we skip out. But that's an obscure rule. That's going to get that's a quirkiness that I don't want to read. We do have an issue there where we're assuming that memberships that exist. So we could have membership. No. That's just good practice there, I think, rather than just assuming that we're going to have it. But if we get to that line, no, forget that line. That's true. This isn't touching the database. This is touching the in-memory store of these values. So it will pull every single membership out. So it still could be kind of heavy if there's 3,000 users um, in a tenant. However, I feel that single there is so single checks that it finds one but it scans the entire collection, and if it finds two, it throws. Right. If I do first, it'll stop at the first one, which is quicker from a lookup perspective because I don't have to access every single value. Uh, First to default, it'll scan every value if it has to, but it'll return null. First, it'll crash if it doesn't find one at all. So single tells a better story, but in terms of database stuff, single is not effective because um, it scans an entire table. So first is kind of the default behavior when doing database stuff. But this would be a 3,000. If you have 3,000 members in your tenant, this would be I don't feel that'd be expensive, and that'd blow up if there was not just one. But it's not continuing the conversation, continuing the thought. Sorry, it's not on me. It's not on me at this point to guard against that situation, right? So I can do that and trust that it will only get one because of something else to save time on scanning an entire collection. It's not on this particular piece of code to validate that I never inserted another membership or whatever. So, and also a guard code there to stop it from failing. So, sorry, coalesce there to stop this, even if it did it. So I could still do that and then put back that. So at the very worst, nothing happens. So no. So yeah. Either way, that's not what I'm actually. It's not the behavior I'm actually achieving. Right? So when membership is active and membership set to active, uh, it's already active. And membership is active, and so that's those tests do not align. Um, when activating membership, I think I just spent $33 on Fable. Never using Fable again. Definitely not happy with that cost. Ouch. When you could have small PRs, never. Um, when membership is active and requesting to activate, I can get rid of the membership word. It's redundant. That's a different test. When um, updating membership stats. Makes sense. Very uncompensated $33 better than others. Maybe. Um, um, home now, every time. Good to hear it. When updating membership status and membership is set to inactive, membership is activated. Okay, that does read right. So here, I'm not going to get a conflict back, and I am going to receive an update. Well, actually, I'm not going to receive an update. Let me put the update in there. So this is set active status, update membership status. So we'll rename this as well. Update membership status. That starts to read a little easier. Things make a little bit more sense. And we need to repository.update async. Frank, good morning. Hope you are well. That reads a little easier. So, update membership status. We can move that up there because we're never going to have a folder here. That's a wasted nesting. One. So expected to see receive no false matching. So we're always going to do something. That's the problem. With doing it this way, right? So we should save on the update. I don't believe we should actually update something if we're setting it. We're just retouching the fields because we'll trigger an event that says it changed, which is not necessarily good. So if status equals membership dot is active, so if membership is null, or let's make that more readable at that point. So that should avoid the update. Actually, it won't avoid the update. Being that we now have a state, then that would become that. If that would do that, now our test will pass. Not sure I'm entirely happy with that, but it does work. So if we do manage to update the membership status, then we update when then we save to the database. Okay. So this is only part of the journey because um, I have captured this piece. So now the database will update. Um, the we'd have an endpoint in theory. Need an endpoint to actually call update. So we need to put that there now. This can't return a result now because there's no result to be had. It's just successful or throw. We could handle it out here, but I really want to know if we're passing in bad values there. So I'll do it that way. Um, so right now, if you deactivate a tenant user, there's actually nothing that means nothing to the system as I learned through going through this. So again, all of this is because I wanted to introduce a better profile card, and I started to look at just where it stored the data. So I'm going down a rabbit hole of doing this because it's necessary. Now, in all, I've probably spent about 10 hours trying to do this so far. Had I sat down and looked through it a little bit more, I probably wouldn't have spent so long and just made some changes. Um, so I think this is a worthwhile path. Even if this was live code, I'd probably want to do something better here because it makes more sense. Now, like I said, it doesn't. What it did identify is right now when you go to log in, we just check to see if you have permissions set in here. If I deactivate a user, I want them to not get a token here and get kicked back out because they could log in and then the tenants available to them, they try and log in. Let's say they only logged in as this tenant last time, and we deactivate them. I want them to get bounced back out at that point. So there's a moment they go to authorize, they should get bounced. So I'm gonna have to put some extra pieces in there because I think I might have it. Well, I do have receivers on the entity bit on this auth, because it does have there's receivers because I do have user permissions, but now I need a tenant membership receiver here so that this could know, yeah, this user actually is in this tenant. User permissions right now just creates for this tenant identifier, user identifier, here's the permissions, and I get a big lookup of, um, and again, it's in the wrong thing. So those are the available permissions that's preceded when it starts up, and these are the tenant permissions. But ultimately, I'd want to say, oh, it's deactivated, but I want to remove them because the because user permissions are set in here as well. Because that'd be the ultimate block, right? Wouldn't it? It wouldn't be, oh, is it active? It would just be remove the permissions, and then um, we'd have to go back through and say you can't update permissions on a user that is inactive. You have to reactivate them if you want to update the permissions, which would then mean when you update the permissions, it would reapply all the permissions. But I would also need to check to see if I activate a user, I'd also need to publish permissions at the same time, which might actually create a problem. So yeah. So we got a couple more pieces to do here. So for update tenant membership, there is no, you know, uh, fail, no success or otherwise here. So I'm just going to do that. Will I do that? No, just do that. it can only return okay, which is pretty much a lie, but it's fine. I'm not dealing with any error state there. We've got sender injected already, so we can do this. So we can await sender.send new update membership status. There we go. That's why. That's why I don't do that. The command is named the same as the class we're in. Redundant. It's redundant. And that's going to take request dot user get tenant identifier. That's the tenant we're in. This is the request dot identifier. That's the user we're asking for. That's the active status, and then we're going to get user dot get user. I am going to look in the next couple of months. There is a way of, well, not a way. I'm going to look to make this a kind of a profile so that it's injectable into the other side, so I don't always have to pass this into a command, because it shouldn't be part of the command. It should be part of the context of the execution, which means that I can just inject the user context and I'll know which tenant and user is actually executing this request, which means I can also know if it's being executed by a service versus a user. So I can treat it differently there rather than dumbing it out, because there are instances in other services where I have all zeros for the source user identifier because it's coming from a so yeah. Type results. Okay. It's for now. It's fine. Right. We build on these things. And again, if you're new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions, you're more than welcome to share. I'm happy to talk about the software as much as write the code. So update status. We'd have that endpoint. We never actually put the active flag in. I'm only putting it in now, so because I'm moving fields and stuff around. Yeah. So when we update the status now, over here, we're gonna have to subscribe to the event. You know what? Done the wrong thing. This should be called updated. And that should be called stats. Membership updated. True. If I do, if I make two events, I have to subscribe to two events for changes, and they're almost identical in their behavior. So that doesn't make sense. Now, my question here is, sorry, my challenge here is, I don't think these domain events will fire because I think they're associated to a child object. And I don't know if it necessarily, when the interceptor is saving, I don't know if it goes through every object that's been saved using this method. So we're going to learn something here about interceptors. So right now what happens is when I save to the database, this object says, oh, do I have any domain events attached to me? Yes, I do. Okay, loop through those domain events, publish those domain events, and now save the object, or after save it does this. So it's committed to the database first. If that does some sort of nested update on the tenant, then these domain events have never fired. So we're gonna see what happens. I don't think I've tested this before. So tenant membership is going to activate, and then we're going to need membership updated. The reason I do it this way is so that you can see the event we're subscribing to and then have the subscribers. So you can have many subscribers to a single event. Mostly it's publish integration. Publish integration is the kind of the default. It's like, hey, this thing happened, publish it to Kafka. Or publish this entity to Kafka. There's behavior in this one in that if when we get a tenant membership registered, if it's the first tenant user, because we could, yeah, the first tenant user becomes the admin user, so they get all the permissions. So this just updates and says assign that, and then assign that user as an administrator because we want the behavior to be chainable. So ultimately, this will be publish integration, right? And this is going to be user permissions, user created, tenant was registered. I'm debating tenant was registered, tenant integration, publish async. Actually, that's doing that. User updated, user publisher. So the user doesn't have memberships. Did I create an event for memberships? Foundation, shared kernel. This is not shared kernel. This is common or core. Started off with intent and became more messaging events, integration events, tenant membership integration. 6 usages, tenant membership receiver, when user in tenant user integration. So we do have a tenant membership was registered. Okay, so tenant membership was registered is the only one. So this integration here. So now we have a tenant membership publisher need. If I have multiple events that trigger that fire the same, need to publish a message so that I don't end up with copy and paste challenge. I move them into a publisher for consistency, and the publisher just calls something. It's really simple. So this is an I integration event. I integration. Yeah. Tenant membership. Is it I? That's an integration event. Import some references. Then that's that. Membership. So just remove that. Take this. It's that. Probably need, yeah. I need I event publisher. Publisher. It's that. Then that, which is that. Sure. And then need membership identifier. This was event source, so we can still trace who did it. Membership. Oh, we got it. So let's use your identifier, and then we do membership. What? Membership.name? I can't have a name on it. Why the heck? User and tenant identifier from ID spec. Ah, I do have a name on it. Interesting. That seems weird. Membership. See, they don't have tenant identifiers. That's not normal. I've changed the object there somewhat. To take a result. Publish tenant membership result. Yeah. I have this one converts it to get more information for it. I'm not sure I like that one necessarily. And actually we don't show the active status. A way of handling this would be to delete the membership if I set it to inactive. But then we wouldn't know. No, we can't do that one because then we wouldn't know who. We wouldn't know who's associated because this record kind of serves a few purposes now. It's not quite a linking record; it's actually a link with other additional information attached. So yeah, we're gonna have to end up with we want to take a published tenant membership result, which I'm fine. Let's see if that does that. So that will be a publish tenant membership result. And that'd be result identifier, result identifier. There. And that would be easy. My concern there is, does that do anything? No, it just takes an object. That's fine. Defines. Okay. Okay, so that means that we end up with this group inheriting from tenant membership publisher, right? And it takes again publisher. Right? No problem. User publisher. Tenant membership publisher. What do we like? Notification. Yeah. Hi, Phil Snell. How you doing? Not wrong. Not wrong. Tenant membership registered. Notification equals. Cleans that up a little bit. And then cannot resolve single tenant membership publisher. Why can't I resolve that symbol? Am I doing wrong? I'm missing something somewhere. High notification handler. It's an interface. That's fine. User publisher. That's fine. Oh, there we go. Okay. What don't you like that? Why you? Why you? That's normal. Publisher. Publisher. Oh, because I'm still using it. That's why. It's because it's still being used. We actually just need to do await, publish, uh, name of tenant membership was registered. And then notification sort user identifier, and then results, and then cancellation token. And I'll stop complaining because then that's not captured anymore locally, so we don't end up with a problem. Okay. And now this one can become uh, using tenant share updated. That's agent share updated. I event publisher, publisher, uh, publisher, publisher. Okay. So the reason I named the folder, um, I named the folder the same as the event I'm receiving, which means that I have this overlap. So I end up with creating a notification version of the event. Um, it would be easy to call this like something else so that then I could choose the notification, but it makes sense to call it notification here and alias it. Because then when you're looking at the subscribers, you don't see extra words that are just repeated. You actually see the event. So there's a pattern of, hey, there's an event that's published from the domain. Tenant membership was registered. Tenant membership updated. I know that I can see this folder and I can see all the things that I do when I react to that event. Now, most of them again are publish integration, but this is how I would extend the behavior of the system. So if I needed something to happen when data was updated or whatever, I could do that in response to that object being saved, because these events are only handled after the database has the data I actually want to capture. So I can actually chain together behavior of the system here, while making sure that I have data stored. So there is some benefits, there's some downsides, right? It does mean that I don't end up with large behavioral files, because I want to do this thing. The chain reaction of things that happen after that are triggered by these event handlers and stuff. It's a little complicated. It's a little bit challenging at times, but it does mean that I end up with lots of little files doing little things, and I kind of like the way it's working. So it makes sense to me. So now on this one, we're going to basically copy and paste this because they're the same style, right? So we just need a repository of tenant membership. Repository. Tenant membership. And I can go there. It's async. And now there. That's working. Also, I'm going to go back here and rename this to repository. If I only have a single repository in there, then it's repository, right? But it's a single line. I promise, Mojo, the first thing I'll do start work is review your yeah. How's that sound? Okay. So we have an event now. So what will happen is if I update the status, it will publish a tenant membership event. Tenant membership integration event also needs active. Right? Because that now needs to have. So we need to have that on the published tenant membership result. Is active. Why am I doing it that way? That doesn't. Why not do that? Name, identifier, user, and then is active. Get rid of all of that fluff and do that. That should still work everywhere but here. So new. Q dot is active. There you go. That still works. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. It's all fine. You have a test. Arrange. When association exists. Association. Concerning when associating user with tenant. Name that. I flip that naming to make it more. That'd be an association exists. That'd be no. And that would be see what happens. It's on the way. Oh crap! It's 8:23. Having too much fun. Okay. Concerning publish integration, when user create notification, user integration event is published. Why are you breaking that? No, time flies. I know. Tell me about it. As we go into fall, or into winter precisely, I do want to start streaming a little bit more. Probably in the evenings, my time sometimes, but it is something that is on the list of things I want to do. Because I want to Tests. Okay, we need. So that needs removing. That's interesting that I had it on there, but the user no longer needs active, which means that the user. I'll break a whole bunch of other things. Constructor does not take an argument. Takes that. It does not contain a definition. Ugh. The good news is I had a lot of tests around active. The bad news is I'm probably going to have a lot of failing tests because I've just removed is active. But we'll see. Active. So the user themselves are not marked as active. We'll deal with removal of personal data later. That's a whole different rabbit hole that I need to go down. What a lot of this effort is aimed at putting more control to the user as to their information and leaving less information leaving less information in control of the system. So, yeah. It's only allowed if an issue has been created for it to track those. Hi, Smell. How you doing? Let's see that. Let's see. Okay, so we are getting a test failed. User integration event is published. Expected to receive a call matching. We didn't get that because we don't send it active anymore. Shouldn't be that. Okay. There. Okay. So let's see. So I think all those view tests failed. Oh no, one test failed. Stunning integration when updating users, user exists and changes active status. So this test is no longer needed, right? Because you can't change the active status on a user. Application, stunning integration, updating users, active status. So we can just delete the test. It's perfectly valid to delete a test. Make sure everything runs. There you go. I need to go through and do some renaming on my testing structures later because they've got inconsistent as I've explored different ways of attacking. And I also have a few different ways of doing tests because of the way I structure them. We had a lot of tabs up. I know you can right click, pause it. So we moved active into tenant membership. So now tenant membership is, hey, this user against this thing. Let's run it. Let's make sure we see that things are still working and not blowing up everywhere. Obviously, I'm not wiring that endpoint up right this second. I'll probably do that later on today. Does everything start? That's the question. And again, if you are interested in learning more about this project, if you want to ask more questions, if you are, whether you're a beginner or you're, an experienced developer, I'm always open to conversation about this. It's helpful to talk about stuff. If you haven't seen it yet, this is what I'm building. This is Kaizu. And all I'm focusing on right this second is going in here and going here and being able to set that to inactive. That's the entire code I've been working on today. This layout is going to have to change. These permissions really match to this save button here. The teams and the permissions are separate. So I'm going to have to work on how to do a more. I'm probably going to remove the save button and put live update in so that yeah. Anyway, I've got all sorts of other stuff to do, but yeah, this is Kaizu, and it is working. Um, Things are coming together, but all this is driven by this profile cards action. This deliverable is I want to be able to show a profile card when you hover over someone's name here, and that's the entire purpose of this. But it's opened up a can of worms. Sorry, not words. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that has to be me for today. So um, I'm going to continue on this path and basically moving all the data for the user away from the tenant. Um, why to use this software instead of ClickUp Pay? Which software? What's ClickUp? That's kind of worms always giving counts. Or project planning. Because I have an opinion on how I like project planning, product planning, and etc. Um, to work. I've worked in Jira for a long time, and this is something I care about. I care about getting information to the right people at the right time, and not just being a tool for collecting. No. Perfectly fine question. I work with Jira a lot, right? And I don't like the way that Jira organizes things, and I don't like the way that the organizations generally try to fit what they think they need to do into Jira or try and manipulate Jira into their process. Um, Usually take a day off the stream. So my focus with Kaizu is very much, hey, this is where CEOs and leadership lives, the initiatives that are going to build ideas out. This will be better formed in the long term to be a more collaborative tool. But the idea is to collect the ideas, build up what you actually want to do so we can see it from inception. And then once they've got enough kind of figured out there, to take that and build out deliverables. And the deliverables are very focused on what the product management wants to see, not on what the developers need to build. So this is all about what do we expect? And these can be big, these can be small. It's up to them how they want to do it. But ultimately, the idea is that they can put in descriptions, and would be a story in Jira. And then when they're ready, they can move it to planning, and it can go over to the deliverables board. And now the teams know, oh, we need to look at this now. This is something that's coming our way. So they can move it to ready for review. And then the team can go and look and say, oh, well, we need to task this out. And they can build the tasks. So it's all about visibility and information being available in the system rather than constantly having to check with people. So you can see progress, you can see updates. Once I've got this profile card, which again seems like a really simple thing, but it's kind of opened up some data things. Once I get the project card in there, the profile cards in there, the next phase is to start building out the notification subscription stuff. So the idea here would be you can say, hey, I want notifications for this particular thing. I want to know when the status changes, and I want to know when it changes to planning. So it will tell you, and we're going to be putting email and messaging, etc. in here. So it's very much about being able to control what you see, when you see it, how you see it, and also being able to go and see any other part of the process from your perspective. No, this is my AI driven UI, because I'm not a very good front end developer. Well, I'm not a completely talentless front end developer, but it takes a lot more time for me. So I've used AI to generate the front end pieces a lot. I built the initial version, but the structure is mine. But the AI has been helping me build a lot of this, and the goal is to get to a point where I can actually hire someone to actually do a real front end. It works. It's it gets the ideas across at this point, right? You can see where things are. That's kept the plan. I'm going to build whatever his boss has for. Okay, stream moment done. Yeah, so yeah, if you're interested in knowing more, Kaizu is really about the technology more than it is about the product. So it is about, this is a fully distributed system, .NET backend, Angular front end. There's a lot of things in here. I'm using Kafka extensively, Postgres, Redis, MongoDB, Auth0. There's GraphQL in here, SignalR. There's a lot of technology, so it's become a technology playground to some extent, at the same time as being big enough to be a realistic product. Control Tower is the backend piece that manages subscriptions, etc., and then Liquid Sky, which makes up the majority of the code. So, yeah. But if you're ever interested, if anyone wants to join the Discord, you're more than welcome to. It's linked in the cards below, both on the YouTube channel and on Twitch. All the streams are uploaded to YouTube immediately, so you can go back and see other things I've done. And yeah, it's there's a lot to it, but it does work. And I actually am starting to dog food it more and more to plan what I'm doing. So I'm seeing the one I'm working on right now is LSP4. There's a branch out there, so it's got GitHub integration, and it is working. So yeah. And sometimes reinventing a wheel gives you a different perspective. So it's okay to reinvent a wheel from time to time. Just because there's a million and one other products, and this is going to happen more and more with AI, right? There's going to be a whole skew of products out there to pick from. A lot of things, but go with what you know. Everything with AI, it just may be useless. Yep, then that's fine. Will it blend YouTube thing? But they're asking, will it AI? Boss wants. So anyway, that's going to be me for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the questions. I will return on Thursday with more of this. I'm hopefully going to get that active stuff in there today and get the toggle working there. So yeah, copy then code. Hello, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Sadly, I have to do a day job, which means that I have to end the stream. So we will go and raid Stone Eagle. Stone Eagle builds No Mercy. He's building his No Mercy media empire. It's fascinating. He uses AI quite extensively these days to build a lot of things. He's got quite a lot of control over those things. So very interesting to watch. So yeah, we'll take you over there, and I will be back on Thursday with more Kaizu, which is a mix of AI dev and hand dev, handcrafted dev, whatever we call it. So anyway, thanks all for joining me. Take care, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye all. Need buttons again. Take care.